I think I cooked with this premise. We'll find out. We will find out. Also, I didn't watch today's episode yet, so don't say anything. Does it keep climbing? That's crazy. You know what's funny is, like, the episodes about the characters that I care the least about seem to be some of the best ones, right? Like, it started out with, obviously the first one's not really a character study. I guess you could argue it's a character study of Rick Flag, but it's not really. Like, it's just kind of its own, it's just kind of an introductory episode. And then they do The Bride, and they do Tin Man, who I've already G.I. Robot, sorry. And the two of them, I really liked from the very beginning. And, like, they were good episodes, don't get me wrong. But then they do Weasel, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. And then it was a really, really good episode. And then they do Frankenstein, and I'm like, I don't really give a shit. And then it was really good. And next is Dr. Phosphorus is episode 6, right? So if it's even better, that's really funny. The characters that I like care the least about. Love Nina though, so if Nina's the finale, then that's a good sign. That'll be cool. Amazon One Medical. What? What is this? Oh no. Oh no. That's not good. I don't like that. Why'd you show me that? That's worrying. No, I'm just sad. We're gonna open the stream sad? I don't want to open the stream sad. That sucks. Anyway, you can read, so you know what the concept of the stream is. But I have gone through my backlog as best I could. I went through, like, my Steam play history. I went through, like, I don't have a letterbox or anything, so I just had to, like, go through old conversations and stuff. I tried to find every single piece of media that I consumed in 2024. I believe that this is all of it. I might have missed something, obviously, but to my knowledge, this is everything. And that, give me a second. That includes music, like new albums. That includes TV shows, movies, games. The presidential debates are on here. I went to a concert, so that's on here. It's every single piece of media that I consumed to my memory. I could have missed something, I don't know. But I think that I did it. Can you rank the stream? This is an S tier stream, Derek. Obviously. Everyone knows this is an S tier stream. Anyway, so we're gonna be starting. I also ordered these, so these are ordered in, like, date order, right? So we're starting off in January. I know I was 2 years late to this. I don't know what took me so long to watch it. I finally watched Everything Everywhere All at Once for the first time this year. I didn't watch it in 2022, and I didn't watch it in 2023. Finally watched it because people wouldn't shut the fuck up about how good it is, and I'm like, fine, I'll give it a chance. And they were all right. That's that's the thing. If that many people are saying something is that good, it's probably that good. You know what I mean? Like, they can't all be wrong. They can't all be wrong. So that's an easy S. I will say I'm gonna be like renaming these tiers because I feel like the genres are all so different that it's hard to directly compare stuff. So I might be making like little exception categories. I'm thinking this is gonna be like a Coney style tier list by the end of it, right? But we'll see. I'm gonna throw that in peak. We're gonna see. We're gonna see where it goes from there. Pal World, still in January. Or no, wait. Everything Everywhere All at Once was the only thing I did in January? That's funny. Okay, February, Pal World. This is one that's gonna need its own tier. Peak for 3 hours. Then the slop shows. I don't know. Maybe other stuff is gonna fall into that category. That might just be a Pal World category. I don't know. We'll find out. Is this Dragon Quest OST? This is Final Fantasy OST. But yeah, it was so fun for like the first day, maybe even the second day. Maybe 3 hours is being rude. Let's say 5, right? I played for 2 days, and those first 2 days, it was like genuinely a fantastic game. And then I hopped on for the third day, and I'm like, I'm kind of just doing the same thing. I'm kind of just doing the exact same thing over and over. I've already beaten the bosses. Like, what else is there? And it's basically just like, you make mob farms in Minecraft. That's the extent of the gameplay from then on. So it's not a deep game. I've heard they've added more. It's not a deep game. It was fun while it lasted, you know? That's my take on it. It was fun while it lasted, and it's not long, you know? Is Arcane 2 on here? Arcane 2 is not on here because I'm not, I won't run that bit. No, but I just refuse to watch it because it's associated with League of Legends, like genuinely. Don't say it. I was gonna say attracted children. It's so good though. I don't know, man. It's just like at the end of the day, it's Riot Games. So I'm just not going to on principle. It doesn't matter how good it is. I've heard it's fantastic. Everyone who watches it comes out of it saying positive things. Riot Games is sick. Oh no. Oh no. Curb's gone off the deep end. That's scary. That's scary. Poor guy. Yeah, I don't know. Everything Everywhere All at Once peak. Pal World, it was peak for a little bit. Deal or No Deal Island. This, for those unaware, is I guess someone wanted to make a like a competitor to Survivor. So Deal or No Deal Island, the premise is simple. It plays identically to Survivor for the first half hour of the show. And then you get to the vote out period, right? And it's not a vote out period anymore. That's what's changed. So instead of like everyone gathering together and picking someone to vote off of the island, they are instead picking who is going to play Deal or No Deal. And then they play Deal or No Deal for a half hour. And that one person who is playing Deal or No Deal, if they win Deal or No Deal, which means getting like a better case, then they just get to pick someone to go home. And if they lose Deal or No Deal, then they go home. That's it. That's the entire twist. And it's stupid. It doesn't add anything to the show. They only did it so it would be like legally ambiguous from Survivor, and it's ass. It's one of the worst things I've ever watched. It's complete sludge content, and I don't know how it got renewed for 2 more seasons. They're shooting season 3 of it right now, so apparently it worked. Like, people watched it, but I watched like 3 episodes and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I tried to give it a chance, but horrible. Doom Part 2 is peak. Should I order things like within tiers? I'm on the fence on whether I should order things within tiers. I think it would stay there. Yeah, I think I will order Between Tiers, and I think it stays there. It's not quite at that level, but it's still peak. I think the weird thing for me is that Dune 1 was peak the first time I watched it, and then it actually went down a bit after I watched Dune 2, because Dune 2 is so much better that you start to see all the flaws of the first one that you didn't see the first time you watched it. You know what I mean? And it's just it was too good for its own good, you know, because it hurt the franchise as a whole. Because then you go back and watch Dune 1 and you're like, damn, not much happening here, you know? And so it hurt the whole product. But yeah, it's peak, obviously. First thing that I actually streamed, like this is the first new thing that I actually consumed live on twitch.tv, Duck Life 9. And you know what? This category became useful sooner than I thought it would. I'll put it better than Power World, but this was indeed peak for 5 hours and then the slop shows. Because for whatever reason, they made a decision with this game. For anyone who hasn't played the Duck Life Flash games, the premise of the Duck Life Flash games is that you raise a duck from hatching to be this like professional duck athlete. And so it's winning duck races, and you need to train it in stats. Like it's got to have a good like running stat, swimming stat, climbing stat, right? And you're entering it into duck races, and that's the gameplay loop, right? I guess they decided that that wasn't a good enough gameplay loop. Like, people play grinding games. Like, grinding games are an accepted genre. Like, RuneScape is still huge. RPGs are, like, very popular. I don't know why they thought they needed to make it not just a grinding game, because I would have played it if it was like that. But instead, they made it a grinding game / city builder, right? And so now... there's the Duck Life gameplay, which is one thing, and then you have to play like this little side game where you're like building houses for your ducks, and you have to have a bunch of ducks for different like specializations and different races, and you got to build like you got to upgrade the training center so you can train them up to a, and it's like this didn't need to be here, and it just makes the game worse, you know? Like, why add all this? I just wanted to play funny duck game. You know what I mean? Yeah, pizzeria simulator type thing, exactly. I don't know why they did it. It hurt the game. It made it so I wanted to stop playing, so I stopped playing. I didn't beat it. Even though I've beat like most of the original like Flash Duck games, or Duck Lifes. Gotta head out, but here's my real quick. Oppenheimer's such an okay movie. Game Awards were way better than last year. Incredible Crisis is funny but okay. Favorite streamer. Let's go. The crazy thing is I disagree with 2 out of 3, and you won't get to know because you won't be here. But thanks for popping in, Derek. I appreciate it. Invincible. Here is the first hot take of the show. Fuck you, I'll watch the VOD. Okay. Here's the first hot take of the show. People aren't gonna like this one. Invincible Season 2 was not good. I'm gonna put it in C. I don't know what I'm naming C yet. Invincible, my issue with it is not the animation. A lot of people complained about, like, the animation wasn't good, but that's not my issue with the show. I can forgive it for that. My issue with the show is not that it took so long to make. I can forgive it to that. The reason that I do not forgive this, and this is like kind of spoilery, I guess. I don't really think it's a spoiler. I'm gonna be vague with it. The central gimmick of like how like they win in this season is multiverses, right? So what happens in the show is they are about to lose, and then they say, but what if we go to a multiverse where we win? And now they've ruined the entire show for me, because there's no longer any stakes in the show at all, right? Because in any future season, if something bad is happening, they can just go somewhere else and there's no more stakes anymore. So they've ruined the future of the show because they couldn't think of a good ending to this season. And I'm now not going to watch season 3 because there's no stakes anymore and I don't care, right? Like, they went way too deep into this premise, and they ended up just destroying the stakes of the entire show. And the crazy thing, I looked into this. Apparently, half of the bad decisions that they made in this were rewrites. Like, they're not from the comic. So they're now diverging from the comic and making bad decisions that hurt the quality of the show. I'm just going to name it disappointing for now. I might make it more specific later, because I wanted it to be good. Season 1 was fantastic, right? And it was just bad, straight up. That being said, right after that, where are we? We're in April already. Oh man, I didn't consume that much at the beginning of the year. It was really in like the summer, where it was just a bunch of stuff. But we're in April now, and first movie I watched in April was Monkey Man. Monkey Man is a fantastic movie. It's definitely like not as good as the other two, but I'm still gonna put it in peak. Partially because of the story behind it. I will say that like the story behind how the movie was made adds to it a lot, but also because it's just such a fire movie, dude. Like, who knew terrorism could be so fun, right? Like, I'm not gonna say that much about the movie because it's really one of those movies that you need to watch. Like, anything I say about it, I feel like is gonna hurt the first viewing experience, but it's such a good movie. You convinced me to watch Monkey Man, and I'm so thankful. Let's go. It's so good. It's so good. Like, I think the closest thing I can get to describing it is like, it's John Wick if like, is music a bit loud? Thank you. I appreciate you letting me know. Oh wow, that is loud. Let's do it like there. Yeah, that's my bad. How quickly we but what was I gonna say? Yeah, Monkey Man is like John Wick if it had like a political message. You know what I mean? Like if John Wick wasn't just like beat the shit out of people because I'm cool as hell, which is a good movie, don't get me wrong, I like the John Wick movies, but that's pretty much the extent of it. It's just like, I'm an assassin who broke the rules of the hotel, and now everyone wants me dead, and I have to stay alive and protect my new dog, right? And that's fine. Like, I'm not saying every movie has to have like deep plot. Monkey Man is John Wick with deep plot. That's essentially what it is. And it was fantastic. Like, I was not expecting it to be anywhere near that good because it was such a sleeper pick. The movie didn't do well, right? Like the movie, I wouldn't say it flopped. It didn't flop, but it didn't do well. And I think it deserved a lot more because it's fantastic. How much do I want to talk about this? I think I want to move on from this one fairly quickly. I could not hum you a single melody from this album. This is Tortured Poets Department. I couldn't hum you a single melody from this album. It's so boring. There's just nothing. There's just nothing there. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it because it didn't have anything to say, so I have nothing to say. Shogun's Peak. Where am I gonna put Shogun? I might put it there, honestly. I think it's second best so far. You know what I've realized? Let me zoom this in a little bit because there's no reason for it to be that zoomed out. Let's do like that. Yeah. Shogun's so peak. I think it does a really good job of like baiting you into thinking something it's not, because I think a lot of people watched Shogun because they thought it was gonna be. I do think a lot of people didn't watch it for the same reason, but like I think a lot of like general audience people are really into white savior stories in really weird ways, and like that's unfortunate, but this show does a very good job of getting that type of viewer to think that that's what it is and to watch it, and then by episode 4 you're like, where'd the white guy even go? Because he's just not relevant anymore, and it's just a show about Japanese people at that point. And I think that's a really funny subversion, and I think it did a good job on that. But also, like, the subversion of the audience part aside, it's also just a really good show and a really good adaptation of the book, which I haven't read, but people who I've talked to who have read the book have told me that it's a really good adaptation. I'm skipping this song. Play a better song. Play a better song. What the fuck? There we go. Okay. I need Tidal to do better at like audio balancing. It just doesn't for some reason. But yeah, Shogun was fantastic. I think that I don't like the fact that they're doing a season 2 because I don't think it needed a season 2. I think it should have just ended there, but they're doing a second one. I'll watch it just to see if it's good. But I'm not like optimistic for it because it feels like it's kind of forced just because the FX finally had a good show, you know? But yeah, it was fantastic. You should watch it. Fallout. This is the first one I'm not going to put in peak because it's not peak, but it is very good. It is a very good show. I don't want to see an original. Yeah, season 2 is going to be an original plot, and I don't know how I feel about it. I hope they stick to the like vaguely historical aspect of it, because like Shogun the book is loosely based on the life of Nobunaga, right? And so I hope they stick to that, and I hope they keep going with that, because that would at least be in the spirit of it. First one I haven't seen at all other than Palworld. Interesting. I think it was good. For context, for anyone unaware, this is a sequel to Fallout New Vegas. That's what this is. So it takes place, I don't know, like 50, 100 years after Fallout New Vegas, but it's in New Vegas, right? And so I think that it was an interesting decision for Bethesda, who owns this property, to say, don't make a TV show about our games, make a TV show about the original creators' games. I think that's cool of them to have done that. And I also think that the lore of the West Coast is way more interesting than the lore of the East Coast in the Fallout universe. So I think it was a good decision, just like directorially also. But the show is great. It does a really good job of juggling 3 protagonists, because it's not like it's not like they're a ragtag like group and they're all together. It's like 3 separate storylines going on, and I think they do a good job of like striking that balance where it all feels interconnected and yet it also feels very separate. I think they struck that balance very well, and I think all 3 stories are interesting. I think the Brotherhood of Steel one was probably the weakest, but like the other 2 in particular were really strong stories, and I think they did a lot of like creative ideas with it. I don't want to say too much because like I don't want to spoil things, and this is like, I feel like since it's still on, like I try not to talk too much about the ones that are still ongoing, right? Because this is getting a season 2 and people are going to watch the first one when season 2 comes out, and I don't want to say too much about it for that reason. I'm more willing to spoil something like Breaking Bad, which has been out for 15 years, and if you haven't watched it, that's on you. I watched Breaking Bad for the first time this year. I had already watched seasons 1 and 2 in 2023, but I finally finished the whole show in March of this year, and it is the best show that I had ever watched up to that point, single-handed, like no comparison. It is the best show that I had watched up to that point, and I think it's just one of those things where everyone was right. Like I was talking about earlier with Everything Everywhere All at Once, like if that many people are telling you that it's that good, it's probably that good. And Breaking Bad genuinely is that good, like the type of things that people say about Breaking Bad. I also don't understand why people say it's like a slow burn show. Like it's a slow burn in the sense that there's like tension slowly building, but it's not like nothing happens in the first season. Like people were telling me like you just have to get through the first season and then it's good. I don't understand why anyone said that. The first season is already fantastic. Same pattern with Arcane, just saying watch it. I'm good, thanks man. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know why people say Breaking Bad season 1 is like boring or like hard to get through, because it's not. Like I don't understand that. Season 1 is great. Season 2 is better. It is better. I don't know. I do have, I made this like a while back. I'll spoil it because it has Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul on it, so I guess I'll spoil it. I just realized I forgot to put El Camino on this. That sucks. El Camino would be in like, okay. It'd be maybe like below Duck Life. Anyway, I did make like a ranking of every season of Breaking Bad. And I am spoiling Better Call Saul a bit. But that's okay. We'll get to Better Call Saul when I get there. But like, season 1 was already very good, right? Like, I don't know why people say season 1 is like slow and then you get to season 2. I don't understand that at all, because it was already fantastic. I think it's because Walter becomes Heisenberg in season 2. He was Heisenberg before the show started. I don't understand this, man. They didn't like Walter White, the chemist. I guess. I don't know. I think the character development is well done. Anyway, it's peak. It is the top one so far. Little Kitty Big City. What do I name this tier? I don't know I'm just gonna leave it as A for now. Little Kitty Big City belongs here. Very short game. I beat it in a single stream. This is what Stray should have been. That was what I was saying the entire time I was playing this. I was like, when I played Stray, I wanted it to be this. Oh yeah. I wanted it to be this, and now I get to play what I wanted out of Stray the whole time, right? And it was peak. I shouldn't say it was peak because it wasn't peak, but it was really good. The reason I don't want to put it in peak, I will say, is because like, one, the fact that it's so short does hurt it. It's really hard for me to get that into like a 4-hour game, you know? But also, like, it is pretty simple. Like, it's not like it's a deep game. I didn't want it to be a deep game, but it's not like there's a lot going on there. They have like a little story beat about how like you're trying to get back home to your owner, and then when you do beat the game, spoiler for a 4-hour indie game, when you get back home, your owner shows up and puts a collar on you, and it's like this cool little like cute moment, and then you can like play post game with the collar on, and I think that was nice. That's like about as much story as this game needed. It didn't need any more than that. I thought it was a cute ending. But yeah, the premise of the game is basically you fell out of like the apartment window, and you have to get back up. That's pretty much it. And it's just 4 hours of you like playing like a Metroidvania type thing, going around the city, finding like tools to get back up there, right? That's all it is. And that's all it needed to be. It didn't, like, Stray didn't need to do all that. They could have just made this and it would have been peak still, right? But for whatever reason, they didn't. Are we still in May? Yeah, we're still in May. And this was, I don't think it came out. When did this come out? I'm gonna check real quick. When did Quake 2 RTX release? Quake 2 RTX released in 2019. Obviously the original game released in the 90s. But this is a 2019 game that it had like a free weekend. So I was like, you know what? I'll try it out. I've never played the original either. So I'll check this out. And I will say two things, right? I will review the Quake 2 part, and I will also review the RTX part. On the RTX part, it is crazy how easy it is to make an old game look absolutely beautiful, right? Like this game, literally all they did was slap shaders in it, and it looks like it could release today. It's wild to me how good Quake 2 RTX looks, because it's a shooter from the 90s, and yet it's absolutely beautiful. Separately from that, Quake 2 is a fantastic game, right? I have come to learn Quake 2 is a really good game. I'm gonna put it probably, I'll put it there, yeah. But it was really good. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's not like revolutionary for me. Obviously it was revolutionary in the 90s, but I'm playing it from a 2024 lens. So it's not a revolutionary game or anything, but it's just good. It's just good. There's not that much more to say about it. It is a very well-made shooter that feels like it could come out today and like still be like well praised. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much it on it. It's crazy how well it aged. After that, the new Planet of the Apes was coming out. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was on its way. And so I thought, you know what? I really liked the first one. I really liked Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I never watched 2 or 3. I should watch 2 and 3 and see how I feel about them. And then I may watch 4 depending on how I feel about 2 and 3. And I'm just gonna review all of these at once. It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild because like people think it's just like Monkey Movie. You know what I mean? People think it's just like, oh man, what if Monkey had shotgun? Wow, you know, I think people watch the trailers and they think it's slop. These are like deeply political movies that are like it's some incredible storytelling that I think people don't really understand. I am putting I'll put two of them above Dune. That one wasn't as good. I didn't assume anything, thought it was just monkey. Yo, how you doing, Void? Yeah, no, it is definitely not just monkey.
Catch this.
So the first movie was arguably just monkey. Meaning the first movie of like the reboot, right? We're talking about the reboot here. So the first movie of the reboot is Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And without spoiling too much, it's essentially like they're working on a virus in a lab that like makes monkeys smarter, right? And so they give it to a monkey and whoa, he's smarter. And then spoiler, he like spreads the virus and then every monkey on Earth is really smart and they take over Earth, right? That's sort of the premise of the first one. Pretty basic. Like it was a good movie, don't get me wrong, but it's like that's sort of what people think of Planet of the Apes, right? It then gets very political from there because you're now in this ape society where there are these like barbarian camps of humans that have still survived, right? And so now it's just like, it's a movie about like civilization building, right? It is these monkeys who have discovered the concept of civilization for the first time, debating over how they should form their society. And it's so deep. like this could be a movie about like ancient Greece, you know what I mean? But it's monkeys. That's the only thing. It's like, what if this was like a deeply thrilling like political story about the origins of like society in Mesopotamia, except we tell it with apes, you know what I mean? And so there are these moments where like, because like I said, there's still these like barbarian camps forming of like the humans who have still survived, right? And they're like not really trusting of the apes for obvious reasons. The apes aren't really trusting of them for obvious reasons. But there are moments where they need to collaborate. And so you're constantly like on edge of like, are one of them going to betray the other? Are either of them really to be trusted? You know? And it's like, it creates really good moments out of monkeys. It's crazy, but it's so good. I highly recommend at least watch the first two, I would say. Watch the first two movies if you haven't watched the first two. So that's Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which is like the origin story, and then especially Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which I think is the best one of the four, because it's so good. War for the Planet of the Apes got a little too high concept because it tried to do this weird like Nazi Germany type story. I think that's a little too much to try and bite off with a monkey movie. I don't think you're allowed to go that far with a monkey movie. So I have mixed feelings about the third one. And then the fourth one, it goes back to the sort of world building of the second one. Why are there so many? There's like, it's not that much. It's really not that much. Don't worry about it. Do I think War for the Planet of the Apes is better than Monkey Man? I kind of don't. I'm going to bump that down. And then Kingdom, let's spread them out a little bit. Because I don't think they're all that similar in quality. I'm going to spread them out a little bit. Remember when you could tell a story? They're different stories. They're different stories. Yes, I am playing Ape Escape music during the Planet of the Apes section. It's true. They're very different stories. I don't know what you want me to say. Like, they absolutely could, like, it's over hundreds of years, to be clear here, right? Like the four Planet of the Apes movies, it is told over hundreds of years. It would be really stupid to boil it down into one movie. But yeah, I think that my order personally is 2, then 1, then 4, then 3. I think 3 is the weakest, but it's still very good. I'm still putting it in peak, right? It's just like you have to compare them. So there's different levels. We have another entry for the slop category, and it is Deadlock. I'm gonna leave it there. I know a lot of people swear by Deadlock. A lot of people are like investing their lives into Deadlock. It's not for me. For anyone unaware, Deadlock is a currently unreleased Valve project that went into public beta in when do I have this listed? June 11th is when I put this in. Maybe that's just when I last played it. In June it went into open beta, right? And a lot of people swear by this game. They think it's peak. I'm not seeing it. History's most popular unreleased video game. I'm just not seeing it because For one, it's a MOBA, so like admittedly not really my genre. Only thing I've seen Deadlock is a tech tuber running it on a hospital machine. That's funny. But yeah, it's a MOBA, so it's admittedly not my genre. I'm gonna be pretty negative about it. However, the thing that like sets it apart from other MOBAs, one, it's kind of like a Smite type MOBA, so it's more like third person perspective rather than like the top down like real-time strategy type perspective, right? So that's one thing. But what sets it apart in terms of the actual gameplay is that you can like really aggressively min-max your hero, right? So the stats for your character are absurdly customizable. Like, it's not just like in League or Dota where there's like the shop where you buy items. There is the shop where you buy items in this game, but it's as if you're walking into like the Mall of America, right? Like, there is way too much to buy. And so a lot of people like that because you can really sink your teeth into it and just completely design a very original character. The problem with it for me is, one, it's really hard to get into and it doesn't do a good job of telling you like what's actually good. And two, more importantly, the fact that you can do that much means that when you fight someone, you have no way of knowing what they're like, right? So you walk up to someone and you see the hero that they picked, so you know like the very basic like what weapon they have, but they can customize the fire rate of it, they can customize the damage of it, they can give it like maybe it heals them when they hit you, they can like there's way too much depth. So they could have made themselves into a healer even if they didn't pick a healer character, because they can just go that aggressive with the stat adjusting that the heroes are just unrecognizable, right? Like, you can make it into whatever you want, and so there's no readability. And so any fight you get into, you could be fighting against a hero that like was originally designed to like be a support character, and so you're like, ooh, free kill, and you dive, and then they like turned the hero into a DPS hero, and then you die. And it's like, that doesn't really seem fair. Like, you're communicating to me that this is a support hero, but then they're not, and I'm not a fan of it. Having an idea what you're up against is important for, exactly. Yeah, it's a very big part of it, and it's missing from Deadlock, and so it's really hard for me to get into because I just have no way of knowing what my opponent is. And that really hurt it for me. Like, it was fun for a bit, and then people really started getting into it and figuring out these like weird, obnoxious strategies, and it ruined it for me. Exactly. Yeah. It's a lot of weird decisions. It's a troubled game with like troubled development. And so I think they just threw a bunch of ideas at it and they don't really click together well. And I think it's unfortunate because like it's a Valve game. They have a lot of talent. The world that they're creating is really interesting. I like the characters, but it's not worth it. I don't know. It's hard to get into. That was the first game of June. The first thing of June. Second thing I did in June is I watched the new Hunger Games. The Hunger Games prequel. It's supposed to be like how Jon Snow became Jon Snow, right? And you go into it thinking, that's gonna be horrible. Jon Snow is like a genocidal maniac. How are you gonna humanize him? Why are you telling this like sympathetic villain backstory to this monster? And the answer is very simple. The answer is they didn't do that. He is just as evil in this movie. And I think that was a fantastic decision. I think that this trend of sympathetic villains has to end. And the fact that they didn't do that in this movie bumps it up so much for me. I think it was really good. Like, my thing, no one agrees with me on this. That's fine that no one agrees with me on this. I think this is the best Hunger Games movie. Just straight up. I think it's the best one in the series. It was really, really good. Because again, I don't want to say too much because it is a new thing. But essentially it's like the 10th anniversary of the Hunger Games. So they've already been doing this. It's not like he invented them, but it's the 10th anniversary of the Hunger Games and viewership is down, right? So they're trying like a bunch of different ideas to keep the show popular. They're throwing a bunch of stuff at it because they don't know what to do with it. Because for the first 9 seasons, it was literally just like they threw a bunch of people in an arena and they watched them kill each other, right? And that was it. And it like did well for the first couple seasons and then kind of fell off. And so they're like, all right, it's the 10th anniversary. We got to do something big. And he is going to a school in the capital where they're like training people to help work on the games. He's going to school to be like a producer, essentially, right? And so Hollywood makes story about media execs struggling with their own irrelevance. How meta? Kinda. But yeah, he's going to like production school, essentially. And so he's like pitching his ideas for how to make the Hunger Games better, and they're really liking them. And so they're running with his ideas in the 10th season, and they're doing very well. That's essentially the premise, right? Is like, he is so good at like creating a horrible, horrible show that he comes to prominence through how much of a bad person he is. That's the premise of this movie. And I think that was a much better way to do it than what I thought they were going to do. Because they make it look like it's going to be a sympathetic villain story. That's the best part. Is like, for the first hour, you're like, why are they like, they're propping him up as like this good guy, and then it falls apart and he is horrible for the rest of the movie. And that was such a good decision. It was such a good decision, because I would have not liked this movie if it stayed in the direction it was going at first, but it really stuck the landing for me. I'm not going to say much more because the second act, third act, it goes very different. But the premise, the thesis of the movie is that he's just really good at designing like something that's good to watch, but also it's a horrible thing to make, right? He's just really good at it. Star Wars prequels aren't about making Palpatine sympathetic. It's about how everyone... Yeah. This didn't do that. It's more about him than anything else. It is kind of about how like horrible the people in the Capitol are, because like everyone is supporting him, you know? Like, it's not like anyone is saying, hey man, you're kind of going too far. There's no like voice of reason in the Capitol, right? So that never happens, and I think like that does add to like, wow, the Capitol is like horrible, but it's more about him than anything. It's more a character study than anything, and I think they did a great job with it. I think it was a great movie. I think it was kind of underrated, because like, how many people want to watch that? It's kind of not a sellable premise, I think, but I don't know. I thought it was good. Oppenheimer. Derek came in earlier and dropped his take on this. He said it was okay and overrated. And you know what? The crazy thing about that is he's wrong. He's wrong. It's peak. It's so good. Like, this is another one where I don't want to say too much, but like, there's one scene. You probably know the scene I'm talking about. It's not the actual bomb dropping. It's before the bomb dropping. It's haunting. I had a nightmare about that scene that night. Like, when I went to bed that night, I had a nightmare about that scene. That is a terrifying scene. I can't remember the last time a movie did that to me. Like, it stuck in my brain so hard that it was actually like affecting me the next day. Like, this is a deeply troubling movie. Hollywood execs seething that people like a drama film. But like, this is like evil. It is an evil, evil movie, in the best way. Like, it does such a good job of capture, like, I understand people have like criticisms of like how Oppenheimer is portrayed, because people viewed it, I don't view it as him being like a hero though. Like, people keep saying that like they watched this movie and they think it's like portraying Oppenheimer as like, oh, you know, it had to be done, and like, yeah, he feels horrible about it, but like, this was necessary. I didn't get that at all from the movie. For me, the movie was like, he shouldn't have done this. Like, everyone was pretty much in agreement this was a bad idea. I didn't get that at all from it. So I don't know where people got that from this movie, that it was saying like nuclear bomb, like necessary evil. I didn't pick that up at all. I thought it was like a pretty scathing criticism of the team. But hey, I mean, art is art, I guess. People can interpret it in different ways. Either way, really, really good movie. It was as good as people said it was, for me. Apparently Derek disagrees. But yeah, that goes in peak. There's going to be a lot in peak, because I'm really good at picking what to watch. I only watched Deal or No Deal Island because my parents wanted to watch it, and I was like, okay. But I'm very selective with what I consume, and I think looking at the list so far, it's paid off, right? I then watched the presidential debate. And I'm going to need to add a new tier for this. Let me change the colors a bit of these. I'm going to need to add a new tier for this. And that tier is car crash in slow motion. This is the Joe Biden presidential debate. Jesus Christ. That was rough. That was rough. It was really hard to watch. It made me sad. It made me sad. And not in like the way Oppenheimer made me sad. Oppenheimer made me sad in like an artful way. This just made me sad in like a why haven't I killed myself yet type of way. Like, This is the one that he dropped out for context, for anyone who doesn't follow politics that closely. This debate happened and Joe Biden performed so badly that he dropped out over it. Like, this performance alone is the reason why he dropped out. It was that bad and it hurt to watch. It hurt so much to watch. That's pretty much all I have to say. Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad. I didn't believe it while I was watching, because you can see on the tier list I made for the show itself, Season 1 was not as good as Breaking Bad Season 1. Season 2 was not as good as Breaking Bad Season 2. And I was like, people keep saying this is better than Breaking Bad. I just don't see it. Where are people saying that this is better than Breaking Bad? And then I got to Season 3 and I'm like, okay, this is like as good as Breaking Bad. It's not as good as the best seasons, but I can see the potential. Season 4 stepped down a bit for me. Season 5, I was like, maybe they're onto something. Maybe they're onto something. And then Season 6 of Better Call Saul is the best season of television I've ever watched. It is the best season of television I've ever watched, and it's the best one on the list. I think it's going to be the best one on the list straight up, isn't it? Yeah, this is the best one on the list straight up. That's the top. And if you haven't watched it, watch it. I would say watch Breaking Bad first. I know, like you don't need to, but I think it adds a lot to it if you watch Breaking Bad first, because it doesn't depend on you knowing certain things about certain characters, but it adds a lot to have like the foreshadowing of like knowing how a character is going to be. And so you see the past version of them and you have some type of expectation, and then it can subvert that expectation sometimes it can play into that expectation, you know? I think it adds a good amount to watch Breaking Bad first. So I would watch both of them if I were you. But yeah, they're both peak. They're both peak. I'm so glad I finally watched them. It took me a long time. And with that, we are into July with Eminem's new album, The Death of Slim Shady. And this is another one that I'm gonna have to make a new tier for. You know how this tier is like peak for 5 hours and then the slop shows? I need to make a tier above that. I wish it would like auto update the colors, but it doesn't auto update the colors. But I need to make a tier above that, and I need to name it the opposite. I need to name it like horrendous until it clicks. This was a good album. I'm not gonna say it's great. Because it's not. I think the fact that it committed too hard to the bit hurts it a lot, right? But it's a well-handled bit overall. I think it took too long to get there. That's the thing. Is like, because the first half of this album is him being Slim Shady, right? And it sucks. Like, he's going way too into it. Like, he's playing up all the worst parts of the character, and like not in a way that it's like interesting. It's just kind of obnoxious, right? And then the second half of the album is actually like genuinely really good. Like, it's it's not super often that someone tells a story over the course of an entire album, and he like successfully told a good story over the course of this entire album. Unfortunately, it took him intentionally making bad music to tell that story, and that does hurt it a lot, right? Like, I can't recommend in good faith that you listen to an album that I think is garbage for the first half of it, right? Like, I can't tell you to listen to this, but I can say that the second half makes the first half much better in hindsight. And it's just a very weird story. We're doing 4 albums back to back here, by the way, because a bunch of music dropped in July. So I listened to The Death of Slim Shady first. I then listened to Bando Stone, which is Donald Glover's new album. He doesn't go by Childish Gambino anymore, so it is Donald Glover's new album. Should I have put his other one in here? No, because it's just a re-release of the 2021. I don't need to rank it. It was really good. Bando Stone was fine. That's the thing. Like, I'm not gonna put it in A. No, it's better than that, but I'm not gonna put it in A. I hate the fact that I have to keep doing this with the colors. I also need to zoom this out a little bit. But I think it was like, can I just name this B for now? I might give it a more specific name later, but it was good, right? Like, there's not that much to say about it. It was good. I don't think it was a worthy send-off for the Childish Gambino name, because he kept marketing this as like the final Childish Gambino album. Thank you for the bits. I appreciate it. First time chat being bits is pretty funny, but he marketed this as like the final Childish Gambino album. He made it this big thing. I don't think it deserved to be that, because it's not like that good.
Well,
it's okay.
MW.
So true. But I don't know. I just think that it wasn't really worthy of the name. Not worthy of the name, but like worthy of sending off the name, right? I think it kind of missed in that respect. But it was good. It was good, right? You know what was better than that? And that came out on the exact same day was King of the Mischievous South 2. I've never listened to King of the Mischievous South.
Minecraft.
And I think that I probably should. I don't know if it adds anything to it. It probably doesn't, honestly. They're probably separate things. But King of the Mischievous South was like a mixtape that Denzel Curry dropped like very early into his career. And he wanted to make a sequel to it, because apparently he always planned on making a sequel to it, because the original one is called King of the Mischievous South Volume 1, right? That's the full name of it. And so he wanted to make a second one so that he could fulfill that sort of volume premise, right? And I don't know how good the first one is, but the second one's really good. I really like the fact how every time a new Denzel album drops, I have no idea where he's going to go with it, right? Because sometimes it's like this deeply introspective work, and sometimes it's just like bangers. This was bangers. This one was not introspective at all. There was no like self-reflection on this album, and I think that's fine. I think that's fine. Yeah. I think that's completely fine to do. You know, I don't think everything has to be deep. He just made fun songs. This was, it was good. It was good. I'm gonna put this below Deal or No Deal Island, and I think that's that. This is Vultures 2. I think I'm just gonna leave it there. Gen V, is it peak? Is it peak? I'm on the fence. It's either right here or it's like right here. I'm gonna bump it down just because I have too many things in peak. And you know what? I think I actually like it better than this, so let's put this in A. But yeah, I think like purely just because I have too much at the top, I'm gonna bump it down a little bit. Gen V was fantastic. Like, for anyone unaware, it was in The Boys universe, right? So there's like, it was kind of marketed as like a season 3.5 of The Boys, right? And so I was kind of on the fence about watching it because The Boys has kind of fallen off for me. Like, season 1 was really good, and then 2 was also good, and then 3 was like okay, and I'm like, damn, they're kind of falling off. So I'm not sure if I still haven't watched season 4 for that reason. And so I wasn't really gonna watch Gen V, but I heard good things about it, and so I was like, I'll check it out. This is the best season of The Boys. This is like very easily the best season of The Boys. It's so interesting how it tackles the stories that it chooses to tackle. I talked about this a lot in the Discord when I first watched it. The opening episode of Gen V used a storytelling device that I've never seen a show use before. Where essentially, this is a bit of a spoiler. I don't think it's a spoiler, because it's one of those things that you realize is going on as you're watching the first episode. But the very first episode, it opens with like a suicide disclaimer, right? And I'm seeing this and I'm like, damn, The Boys went woke. No, no, but I'm watching this and I'm thinking this is supposed to be in The Boys universe. They've tackled way worse things than suicide in The Boys. So I don't really know why they're opening with this. And it felt weird, right? Like, it felt kind of off, and I was worried that it was an indicator that like the show was going to be softer than The Boys, right? One, that was not the case. This is definitely not softer than The Boys. It's just more tasteful about it. But 2, the suicide disclaimer is a storytelling device, because throughout the first episode, there are like 4 or 5 different characters that like they like walk through like what's going on in their life. and you're thinking to yourself, damn, that might be the one to do it. And then you stop yourself and you realize, I'm predicting that someone's gonna kill themselves. What is wrong with me? You know, and that happens like 4 or 5 different times in the episode. And it's like, it really makes you self-reflect as a viewer. And I think like, I've never seen a show do that before, where it's like, it forces you into, it's like what Spec Ops: The Line wanted to be, right? I've always been a Spec Ops: The Line hater. This is a bit of a tangent, but in Spec Ops: The Line, you're a soldier, and it like tries to get you to commit war crimes, essentially, and then it makes you feel bad for the war crimes you committed, right? But the problem with that is that you can't progress the game without doing the thing, right? You can watch this show without having those thoughts. It's not a required thing, but you're probably going to have those thoughts, and so it does it much better than Spec Ops: The Line did, because it is actually optional. You could have watched the episode and not had that thought for the entire episode, but you probably had it like 3 or 4 times. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bad person. But I think the way that first episode made me self-reflect with that aspect of it was really unique and really interesting. And I think like as the show went on, there were several moments like that. I'm going to bump it up. I lied. I'm going to bump it up. Is it better than Oppenheimer? Let's do that. Yeah. The way that it makes you self-reflect as a viewer and make you think about how you consume media is genuinely incredible. Like I've never like thought about myself that much after watching something as I have after Gen V. It's so good at that. And I think that was the whole point. I think like I think in making it more of like a college targeted thing, I think they did a really good job of making that the focus of it. Is when you're watching it, it's very much about the viewer. You know what I mean? And it's just really impressive the way they managed to do that. But we get to move on to something a little less serious. I'm gonna skip this song. We get to move on to something a little less serious after this, because Ricky, aka The Rixer on YouTube, was running a weekly speedrunning race, like blind race series. He's still doing it, but I haven't participated in it in a while, just because I haven't had the time. But the only game in the series that I played for the first time, the only one that I was playing truly blind, was Incredible Crisis, which is a PS1 like WarioWare type game. Where do I want to put this? I think I want to put it like here-ish, somewhere in here. I'm gonna put it there. It's really good. I don't know how I had never heard about this game. It's fantastic. You kind of just have to watch, like go back, watch the VOD of it, because it's very difficult to describe. The best I can get is like, it's a WarioWare type game that goes through like the day of a Japanese family. So there's a chapter where you play as the dad, there's a chapter where you play as the mom, the son, the daughter, right? Those are the 4 like chapters of the game. And you're just going through each of their days, and that's pretty much it. But we need more games where you play a middle-aged office worker. True. Yeah, I don't know. There's not that much more to say about it. It's just a really good game. I had never heard of it before that, and I was like, this looks interesting. I'll play it for the blind race. And yeah, I thought it was great. I need like a boring tier, because I don't want to say it was disappointing. I'm gonna add a row above, because it is better than those. And I'm just gonna name it boring. Nothing happened. I don't know, man. Nothing happened in that one. And like they talked. I don't know. She did fine, I guess. There wasn't a whole lot there though. And so that's a sleeper. That's a sleeper. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. The contestant. Okay, here's the problem. You know what I'm gonna make another tier. Car crash in slow motion, bad. Car crash in slow motion, good. I'm gonna move that up. Contestant goes in this one if it's not obvious. For anyone unaware, this is a document. It didn't come out this year, but I watched it this year. It's a documentary about a show in Japan called Denpa Shozen, and is just, it's a humiliation show, essentially, right? It's like they take people and they humiliate them for money. That's the premise of the show, right? And the most popular episode of it, or I guess the most popular season of it, because it went across a whole season. The most popular season of it was this one guy who is on the poster. Where do I want to put this? Is this? Yeah, let me move it up. Yeah. Let's put it there. But the premise of that season was this guy, and they stripped him of everything. They put him in an apartment with nothing in it, except like a stove, right? And they stripped him of all his clothes. They took away all his money. They put him in the apartment, and they said, you get to leave once you make $10,000 solely through like magazine giveaways. So they gave him like a mountain of magazines, and he had to like do the, like, you cut out the little section of it and you write your name and address and you send it in and maybe you get something, right? And so he would get little things, like he'd maybe like win a bag of rice, and he'd like win he'd win cat food from like a pet magazine, right? And so the premise was he had to live off of these magazines until he had made $10,000. I'm converting it into American money. Obviously, it was $1 million yen, but that's like $10,000. And it's just a documentary about the show. I didn't watch the show itself because that's a horrible thing to do, but I watched a documentary about the show. And yeah, car crash in slow motion is pretty much the way to describe it. I'm gonna move it up one, actually. It's better than Bando Stone. Yeah, horrible show. I don't recommend watching it. That's the thing, is this tier is you shouldn't watch it. Like, it was really good. I'm glad I watched it, I guess. You shouldn't, though. That's pretty much what that tier is. It's just don't watch it. I don't recommend it at all. It's bad for you. It probably negatively affected me in the long run, you know? Like, it's horrific. Walls Vance. I'm gonna put that in disappointing as well. It was better than Invincible. Joker 2. Good. I do not recommend as a review. Yeah, there's a lot of things I've watched and played like that. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is the biggest one for me, where like the delta between how much I enjoyed it and how much I recommend it, the gap between those, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is definitely the biggest one, because I really enjoyed it. I put 100 hours into that game and I don't regret it. I would never recommend it to anyone because here's the crazy thing. It was bad for 50 of those hours. The first 50 hours, it was not a good game. And then suddenly it clicked and it was fantastic. So I would never tell anyone to play it, but I loved it. Anyway, Joker 2. I'm going to put it in B. I'm going to put it in B. This may be a shocker to some people who heard it was like garbage. Here's my thing about Joker. The third act is pretty bad. I will say, it did not stick the landing. That hurts it a lot. The first two acts were fantastic, like genuinely really good movie, and then it fell off at the end. I think the fact that it's a musical was the correct decision. I think it maybe has like 2 or 3 too many songs, right? But I think generally speaking, the fact that it's a musical was the right decision. It added a lot to the movie. I think that the story it's trying to tell is really interesting. I don't think it's that much of a subversion of the first movie. Like, I think it is a natural progression of the first movie. People like act like it, like he made it bad on purpose to like spite the fans of the first. No, he didn't. It's like a very obvious and natural progression of the first movie. And I think like it did what it should have done. I don't know. Like in the first movie, like he starts a riot in the city. Obviously he's gonna go to jail for that, and he's gonna have to like reflect on his sins. That's like, duh. This is the obvious second movie to make. If anything, it's too obvious. I don't know why people are acting like it's some huge subversion. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I think it was good overall, because I don't think the third act of it ruins it for me. The third act went off the rails, and it was weird and confusing, and I think that definitely hurts the movie, but I don't think it killed the movie for me. I still have an overall positive review of the movie. That may be partially affected by the fact that I went for a double feature that day. When I went to the movie theater, On October 6th, 2024, I watched 2 movies. I watched Joker 2, and then immediately after, I watched Megalopolis. I kind of want to... I don't know where to put it, because like I want to make another tier, but I've already made too many tiers, because it's not it needs to be down here for sure, but it's not a sleeper because it's insane. It's not disappointing because I expected it to be bad. It's not a car crash in slow motion bad because it's a car crash in slow motion good. I guess it goes here. Yeah, I guess it goes there because it's like it's a bad movie and it's a car crash, but it's like bad in a different way. It's bad in a different way to the debate, because the debate, like you're watching the debate and you're realizing that your life is ruined, right? Like you're realizing that that's the president of the United States of America. In Megalopolis, the stakes are a little bit lower, and you just realize, you know what? They're both the manifestations of senility. Actually, that's a good. You know what? Senile old man creates content. That's the tier. That's the tier. That is the tier. That is 100% the tier. Oh man, Megalopolis is a movie. For anyone unaware, it is like a modern retell. You know how like people like will make like modern retellings of like Shakespeare, right? And so it'll be like, what if Romeo and Juliet was in the 20th century, right? And they'll do stuff like that. This is that, but for like Rome, you know? And so that basic premise could have been fine, right? Like that's not a bad premise for him. It's kind of played out, but that's a premise that could work. The problem is that he's like 90. How old is he? Francis Ford Coppola, age. He is 85. He is 85 years old, and he made a movie at 85 years old. And the problem with that is that you can't make a movie at 85 years old. Bro is the consumer. I'm very proud of this tier. Can you tell me that this is a good tier name? There's 2 things in it. Can you tell me that I cooked with this? Because I feel like I really cooked with that category, AA. Do you agree with this? I watched a film directed by a 93-year-old from last year. Clint Eastwood directed. Clint Eastwood directed a new movie? That's bizarre. Grape hates old people confirmed. I mean, yeah, but I don't think you can necessarily derive that from the tier. But like, yeah. But yeah, this movie's a mess. I had a weird phase where I thought Gran Torino. I don't know what that is. Everyone assumes this is the last film he'll direct because he died. Maybe he'll make another one. I don't know. You're talking Clint Eastwood, right? Yeah, you're talking Clint Eastwood. Maybe he'll make another one. When bro sees 2 old people. It's very similar though. Like in both cases, you're just watching like someone, I don't want to say someone you respected, because I don't think anyone respected Joe Biden, but someone who had a certain aura about them, and you're just watching it disintegrate in real time, right? That's what both of these were, right? That's the viewing experience for both of these, is you're watching someone's reputation explode in real time because they're too old. That's funny. That's funny. That's peak. I don't know what the problem with that is. But yeah, no, that's a really good tier. I want to try and lump some tiers together. But the problem is I kind of can't. Like, these obviously are reasonable. Like, these 3 tiers, I can't lump them together because they're all so different, you know? Like, yeah, I don't think I can lump any of them together. I don't know. I think I'll just leave them all separate like that. And then, yeah, the rest of them are fine. But yeah, this is the tier list so far, AA. We're most of the way through at this point. It's a lot of peak. It's a lot of peak. What's next? Oh, yeah. I am not a very big, like, concert guy. The last concert I went to, I was, like, 2. Right? Like my dad brought me to a Cheap Trick concert when I was a baby. and that was my first concert, and I haven't been to a concert since. So I went to my second concert ever this year. Me and a friend of mine went to Voyage to the Blue Planet, which was a Weezer concert where the premise is it's sort of like a retrospective. Like they're going back in time through their catalog, and it ends on they play through the entirety of the Blue album, which is their first album. More Tears. Yeah, okay, Coney chat, whatever. This is purely a me thing, right? I understand it doesn't belong here for like 95% of people. I understand that. For me, because this was targeted at me specifically, this is probably there. It's probably there. I know that that's strange. It was so good, man. Like, there were so many deep cut. Like, let me pull up. I have the entire set list. After the concert, I went and I made the set list on Tidal so I could listen to it. It's such a good set list, dude. Like, there's so many deep pulls. How many of you have heard of Burnt Ham? How many people here have heard of Burnt Ham by Weezer? This is on their least popular album. No one listens to this album. It's peak. It's peak, and they played 2 songs from it. They played Beverly Hills, don't get me wrong. Like, they did pull some of the big ones in. They played Island in the Sun. The hits were there. But, like, there was so much, like, out of nowhere stuff. Gotta shower and do Japan stuff, but I'll peep VOD. Got you. A lot of people have said they'll peep the VOD. I don't know if I believe all of them. I believe you, but I don't know if I believe everyone. But yeah, such a beautiful set list, man. Like, it opens with Future Scope. I'm talking to no one. No one understands what I'm saying. It opens with Future Scope, which is just, like, such a good way to open. It was beautiful. Leads right into, like, peak. This is, like, the golden age. Right here. This is the golden age. And it leads right into that. When I say the golden age, I mean, like, my golden age. It's not popular at all. No one likes that era except for me. I'm the only one that likes that era. But it's peak. Doing Pacific Sunset, I put Run Raven Run here, even though it wasn't technically Run Raven Run, it was Pacific Sunset, which is a different song that they never released. Pacific Sunset is a beautiful, beautiful song, and it should have been on an album. It was never on an album. And the fact that they closed out the retrospective section with that, such a good pick. Such a good pick. I'm pretty sure I cried when I heard that. I'm pretty sure, like, this section right here, Perfect Situation into Pacific Sunset, I'm like 90% sure I cried at that section. And then we got like half of Pinkerton, and then we got the entire Blue album. It was so good. It was so good. That's peak. That's peak. That goes in peak. Just for me. I know most people don't care about it that way. That was peak. It was so good. Rivals of Aether 2. I kind of want to rename this category because Rivals of Aether is not slop. I don't want to call it slop, but it falls into a similar camp for me where it was really fun for a little bit. You know what I mean? I might just put it in B, I guess, because that's a difficult thing to describe in a tier list. But, like, the thing about Rivals of Aether is it was really, really fun for, like, the first couple days. And then I was like, wait a second. This is a platform fighter. No, there's just not a lot there. Because, I mean, it's a fighting game, right? And maybe there's more in the full game because I only played the demo. I should asterisk this by saying I haven't played the full game yet. There just wasn't a lot there. The only thing you could do is fight other people online. And that's just never enough to hook me, you know? Like, even in fighting games, I play the single player content probably more than I play the multiplayer content in pretty much any fighting game, you know? So if a fighting game doesn't have fulfilling single player content, it's not going to grab me. And Rivals of Aether just didn't have it. So as soon as I, like, was feeling kind of done with the multiplayer, I was feeling kind of done with the game at that point, because that's all that was there. I could just soften this a little bit. Peak for 5 hours lacks depth, and I'll put it, like, above all of them. It's the best one in the tier. I think that makes more sense. Yeah, it's just there wasn't a lot there for me. This is a shameful way for me to find out that Rivals 2 launched. Yeah, it's fine. It's just there's not a lot. But yeah, it launched. It kind of got overshadowed by other rivals, but we'll get to that in a bit. And that was my October. We're in November now. It is November 11th. I am sitting in a theater with one other person, who is the person that I came with. And the two of us are there alone to watch Venom 3, the ending of the Sony Spider-Man universe, because Kraven the Hunter never happened. So the ending of the Sony Spider-Man universe, we're there to watch it. And it was a sleeper. I'm gonna put it better than the Harris-Trump debate. It was a sleeper. It was a sleeper. I don't know what to say. First movie was good. I liked the first movie. Second movie was garbage. And so I went into, I can't put this in disappointing because I wasn't going into it expecting it to be good, right? Because the second movie was garbage. And so I was like, I think the first one was probably a one-off. And I was correct. The first one was a one-off because this movie, it's nothing. It's nothing. There's nothing there. There's like little individual moments that are kind of cool. I liked the casino scene. The casino scene was good. Not the one on the rooftop. The rooftop one sucked, but like the ground level casino scene. If you've watched the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Ground level casino scene. That was a good scene. Yeah, sleeper like I was falling asleep. Yeah, like sleeper bad. Like ZZZZZ tier. Yeah. The ending is garbage. Does anyone care if I spoiled the ending of Venom? Watch this with my dad, and even he was like, yeah. Does anyone care if I spoil the ending of Venom 3? I don't think anyone cares. Okay, perfect. The ending of Venom 3 is, they start pulling in, like, more Venoms. And I think that was fine, right? They didn't really flesh them out. And I wish they fleshed them out more. But they start pulling in, like, more symbiotes to infect more people so that they can fight back against the villain of the movie, right? And then they decide that the villains are just gonna keep like sending in more of their own, right? So it just keeps scaling up, scaling up, scaling up. And now this is like this unwinnable fight because there's like 50 of the villains there. And the whole thing that the movie set up was like, you can't beat them alone. Like, there was one there of like the symbiote hunters, I think they were called. I think they were called symbiote hunters, right? And there was one for most of the movie. For most of the movie, there was one on Earth, and they were throwing everything at it, and it wasn't working, right? They were like 20v1ing this thing, and it was not working. And then at the end of the movie, like 20 more of them spawn in, right? And so it's like, if it was unwinnable then, it's obviously unwinnable now, right? Like think basic power scaling here. If you have that many of them, you lose, right? And the ending, they decided that the way to kill all of them was for Venom to die, and then they all died, right? Like he like sort of baited them into a trap, and they all jumped into it with him, and they all got like acid bath. But they had never established at any point in the movie that they were weak to acid in any way. Like the whole point is that they don't really have any weaknesses. Like they exist, but they're very, very specific, right? And that was established for the entire movie. And then at the end of the movie, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, their real weakness was acid the whole time. We didn't tell you. Our bad. And then they all die to acid, and then Venom dies to acid with them. And I think they just wanted like a sad moment where Venom had to like sacrifice himself for the greater good. So they just kind of came up with it on the spot, right? And so the heroes win, but Venom's gone. Oh, so sad, right? And it was just, it's so transparent that like they worked backwards. They like that, they wanted that to be the ending. And so then they like wrote the last 20 minutes of the movie just to set up that, but they had already written the first two acts, right? So the third act is just like scrambling to set up this ending that they had in their heads that doesn't make any sense and doesn't link with the first two acts at all. It's completely disconnected. So the last like half hour of the movie is just them rushing to that ending that doesn't fit with the rest, and they're trying to like explain it in the last half hour, and it just doesn't work at all. It was so badly written. What? Okay, Superior. But yeah, I don't know. Best thing about this franchise is they committed to having a singular design for the hero for the whole trilogy. That's fair. But yeah, I don't know. I think they wrote a bad movie. Like, they went into it with the idea for a bad movie. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, they went into this movie trying to create this like beautiful send-off to this character, and they just never got there. You know, they never got to a point where it was justifiable. That's pretty much my take on Venom. Like, they never justified the ending. And like most of the movie was boring, to be clear. I'm not saying like it's bad because of the ending, because like Joker was good and I didn't like the ending of Joker, but Venom was a bad movie with a then also disconnected ending. So like, what part of this did you need to force in? It didn't make that much sense. Marty can voice Venom, come on. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Venom. We're still in November because The Penguin just ended. And The Penguin is peak. Where does it go? Where does it go? I want to rethink about the order here. Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad's better than Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything Everywhere All at Once is better than Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which is better than The Penguin, which is better than Shogun, which is better than Kingdom. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. That's good. Yep. Okay. That section was a little off for me. I needed to move some stuff around. Penguin is fantastic. This adds to the thing that I was talking about earlier, where the thing that I really, really liked about the Hunger Games prequel is the fact that they did not try to make a sympathetic villain. They made you think that they were doing a sympathetic villain story. And so you went into it a little like, oh, that's not great. And then they subvert your expectations and they create the monster in front of you. And it's very well done, right? And there's like no world where anyone thinks like, yeah, he was justified, right? The Penguin does the same thing. There is no world where anyone is like, you know what? Yeah, Oz is actually like the hero of this story. Oz, you know, he's just kind of misunderstood, but he's a good guy when you get to, no, he is the villain of the story. And I'm glad that they hard committed to that, because this whole like, oh, gray area, sympathetic, like it's overdone. It's overdone. Not everyone has to be sympathetic. Maybe they can like have their reasons in their head and you can show what their reasons were for themselves, right? Because I also don't like when someone's just evil for the sake of being evil. They need to have a motivation. I'm not saying don't give them a motivation, but I'm saying don't make the don't try and say that it justifies what they're doing, you know? And the Penguin strikes that balance where it shows you his origin. It doesn't even like give him a motivation, honestly, now that I think about it. He's just a piece of shit. Like, it does give him a motivation, but like, he's deranged. Like, I don't know, it's tough to describe. You should watch it. It's really good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's peak. It goes in peak tier. Sabrina Carpenter, short and sweet. This, I was late to, because this came out in like summer and I finally listened to it in November. This was surprisingly good because it's not my genre of music, but it was very like surprisingly deep. Like, not deep in terms of the lyrics, it's not a deep album, but deep in terms of like the musical quality of it, right? Like, I was expecting generic pop out of this. This is generic pop in genre, but not in quality. Because like the production is actually very good on this album. I'm debating where in A it goes. I think it like goes right next to Little Kitty Big City, because these are both very similar to me in that they're both just kind of like well-made, like feel-good media, you know? Like, that's all there is to it. It doesn't need to be any deeper than that. Not everything has to be like the tragic story of how he killed his parents. It's like, not everything has to be that, you know? But it was just a nice feel-good album. I like it. I've listened to it a few times since then. It was quality. There's nothing wrong with it. GNX's peak. Where in peak does this go? It goes there. GNX is so peak, dude. I listened to it yesterday, actually. This has not left my rotation since it came out. It is so good. It is so good. How did he make it so good? I think, here's the crazy thing. Here's the thing that I don't know if everyone's going to agree with me on this. I think it might be my favorite Kendrick album. I think it might be my new number one. For context, Good Kid, Mad City was my previous number one. I think this passes Good Kid for me. I don't know. Still on the fence because it's only been a couple months. You got to give it time. But like for now, I think it's his best album. It's insane. There's so many different like subgenres. And obviously it's all like a rap album, but there's so many different subgenres in there that he makes like some of the best music in that subgenre on this album. And then he just jumps to a different one and it's the best in that subgenre now. And I don't know how he does it, man. I don't know how he does it. Cause like he didn't have that. He probably made this in like a month or two. You know what I mean? Like this is recent. Like he didn't have that much time between the music he was making for the Drake beef and then he goes into this. Like, did he just have all of this? I feel like there's no way he just had all of it. So he probably made it all in like 2 or 3 months, which is insane. And it's so good. It's so good. You know what else is so good? I don't think I'm gonna put it in peak, because I think for a video game to go in peak, it has to do a lot. And this is just a multiplayer game. I am gonna put it there though. It's really good. It's really good. It has taken over my stream. It is the only thing that I have streamed since it came out, other than today, obviously, and like the Game Awards. But it's pretty much the only thing I've streamed since it came out. It's so good. There are flaws. Like, I think the balancing, now that we've seen the cracks in the balancing, I think the way that they tackle season 1 is going to affect my interpretation. But I'm ranking season 0, right? This is season 0 of Rivals. It will live or die depending on how well they handle season 1. I am optimistic based on what they've said so far. But I think the flaws exist, and if they get rid of them, it will be peak. And yeah, it's just really good. I think people like went into it expecting it to just be like a shameless, like, what if Overwatch was Marvel? And that's just very obviously not the case. Like, if you've played both games, it's not Overwatch because it's fun. Like, it doesn't have, like, it's a hero shooter, but beyond that, it doesn't have that much in common with Overwatch. And it's just a really good implementation of the hero shooter genre. And it takes just as much inspiration from Overwatch as it does from Paladins, as it does from TF2, as it does from Garden Warfare, right? Like, it's just another hero shooter, but I think it might be up there for me. I don't think it's my favorite hero shooter yet. It depends on where it goes, but I think it has the potential to be the best hero shooter, which is crazy because I have 1,700 hours in TF2. No S for Spyro. Spyro, I don't know how to tell you this. Spyro came out in 1998. I don't know how to tell you this. Should I change the title? Every single piece of meat, like, it's everything I consumed for the first time in 2024. That's what I mean for this to be. These are all things that I watched or played or listened to for the first time in 2024. That's what this is. Yeah, Marvel Rivals A. The Game Awards, I'll give it a B. It was good. It was the best game, like, it was the best Game Awards yet, I would say. Yeah, I had to rephrase it a little bit. But yeah, the Game Awards this year, it was the best Game Awards that they've done so far. And I think that there's only so much quality that an award show can have because it needs to do so many things at once. The Game Awards is simultaneously an award show and an ad and like a celebration of the past year and like Nintendo Direct all in one, right? And so it has to do a lot of things at once. And I think they finally found the balance. It took them 10 years, which is lame. But I think they finally found the right balance where, like, I understand they have to run ads. They didn't run too many this time. It was maybe a little more than I'd like, but it was about right. And I think that, like, every aspect of it that they're trying to tackle, I think they juggled it well this year, right? I think they did a good job. And I think that I enjoyed watching it with no asterisk, right? There's always been an asterisk in every other Game Awards. Like either I just thought it was bad or there was some kind of asterisk, right? This didn't have that. It was just good. It was just good, and I'm happy about that. Crazy by LeSseraphim. The problem with this one is, so for context here, this album came out, I think last year. It's an EP, I should say, not an album. But this EP came out, I like it was either last year or it was like very early this year. But I didn't listen to it because I'm not really into K-pop. But there was this trend on TikTok where it was like Marvel Rivals TikToks, where one of the characters, like she would use her ultimate and then people would like edit this, like one of the songs off of this EP into it, right? And the memes were funny, but also like, I was like, damn, this is a really good song. Like genuinely, this is a fantastic song. I should listen to whatever it comes off of. And so I found the EP and I listened to the EP, and the EP has one good song on it, and it's the one that I already heard. It's better than the debate, but I was so sad because like Crazy is a really good song, and then there's also 4 other songs on the EP that are there. They're not good. And so I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there, because it was one good song. That happens so often for me, it's disappointing. Yeah, like why couldn't you guys just make other songs that were as good as that one? But I guess that's why it's the single, right? I guess that's why that's the single, and it's like the title track, right? Because it's the best one. I get it, but like, damn, I have to be that much better. There was one other song that I thought was like okay, and then the other 3 were just straight up bad. So that was disappointing. Survivor. I didn't rank Survivor 46 on here because I couldn't think of a good way to show Survivor 46 and Survivor 47 separately. I would put 46 probably somewhere in B for context. That'd go somewhere in here, right? I'm ranking Survivor 47 because Survivor 47 ended a couple weeks ago. And Survivor 47 was the best season since the reboot. I want to put it somewhere in here. I'm gonna do that. I keep dropping this down. This was in peak earlier. But yeah, Survivor 47. If you've never watched Survivor and you think you like could maybe even be a little bit into reality TV, I highly recommend binging the most recent season. It is, so there was a big reboot that happened with season 41. Also, yes, there are 47 seasons of the show. It's insane, I know. But with season 41, they did a big reboot and they changed a lot of the rules of the show. So like, it's much shorter. It used to be a much longer show. They shortened it. It used to be like a lot more, like over time, they became pretty forgiving with stuff. They like were giving out too many advantages to people. They were trying to do too many like twists because they thought that like if you throw more stuff at the show, it's gonna be like more interesting. And I think they realized that that's a bad way to design a show, because like more things doesn't make it deeper, right? And so they did a reboot on season 41 and they cut back on a lot of that. There's fewer advantages. They're put in like a tougher environment. The show is shorter, so it's more fast paced. And they did a lot of changes to the show to try and make it like more dense in quality, right? Like more is going on, and it's like more of a character driven thing, right? And that's smart. I think that's the right way to take it. But the problem is that, one, they had to figure out the new formula, and that takes time to do. So like season 41, 42, 43, they were a bit of a mess. There were some things that were really controversial, because they had to figure out how to tackle this new formula, because they're doing the show differently now. And then two, a character-driven show only works if it has good characters. And you're not writing characters, you're casting people. And so if the casting department isn't doing a good job, then it's not going to land, right? And there were some seasons where the casting department did not do a very good job. And so there were some boring characters in some of the previous seasons. Season 47, I completely mean this when I say that literally every single person on the show could have been the star of any other season post like reboot. any person on this show could have been like the main character of any of the other most recent seasons. Like, they were all that good. It was such a good cast. They have figured out the formula. So now, like, there are twists because there needs to be something, but they're not overbearing. It's a very character-driven show. It's all about how they approach the game. Everyone this season was so smart. They were all playing the game like very optimally, and so there was so little wiggle. Like, if you made the tiniest mistake, it was over. It was so good. Like, these people, like, it was so cool to watch them think. Every person on this, I keep saying character because they are kind of characters, but every person on the show thinks like so differently about how the game works and how people work, and they were all approaching it so differently. There's this one girl on there who is like, there's this one girl on there who was approaching it so autistically, and I can say that. I'm allowed to say that. I promise you I'm allowed to say that. But she was approaching it so autistically, and I loved it. It was great. Seeing the way that she was like thinking about things from like technically a social perspective, but from a very analytically social perspective. Where she was like doing like min-maxing with people. Like she would because they do these little like cutaway sections where they like talk about their thought process, and she's like min-maxing her relationships with people, and it's like, what are you doing? But it was working. She was doing really well, and it's so interesting to see the ways that all these different people approach this game that has existed for 25 years now, and it's like people keep finding new ways to tackle it. And it was so good. I'm going to bump it up. This was peak. This was a peak season of Survivor. It was so good. I kind of thought like the glory days were over. You know what I mean? Like, I thought like, okay, the reboot, like they're kind of, I don't want to say homogenizing. What's the word? Like they're branding it for more of a general audience. They're dialing back some of the more like high concept aspects of the show, and they're making it more like reality TV to get with the times. That's kind of what I thought was happening with the reboot. That is not what was happening with the reboot. I see the vision now. I see the vision. I see exactly what they were going for. This season was fantastic. It was maybe a top 5 season for me overall. And for context, I've watched every season of the show. I've watched season 1 through season 47 because I'm deranged. And I think this is a top 5 season of the show for me. I think if anyone asks me, like, how do I get into the show? I'm going to tell them to watch Survivor 47. I'm going to probably tell them to also watch Brain, Brawn, Beauty. There's more years of Survivor than years of You. No, there's not. We're tied. I said 25. It's 24. I said 25 because I was rounding. But yeah, there's 24 years of Survivor. The first season aired while I was in a womb. So it's like very technically older than me. We're tied. Yeah, it's technically older than me by like a couple months. But yeah, I was in the womb for season 1. And yeah, it was such a good season. You should watch it. That's like everything in peak except for Voyage to the Blue Planet, because that's for me. That's peak for me. I know it's not peak for anyone else. Everything else in peak, watch it. Like, watch it, listen. Is there any music? Yeah, there's music there. Watch it, listen to it, play it. Are there any games in there? I don't think I put any games in peak. I didn't. Okay, yeah, watch it or listen to it. I highly recommend that you consume every single thing in peak. I know that's gonna take some time. Get over it. Do it anyway, you know? We're ending on a trilogy. We're ending this on a trilogy because James Gunn has taken over the DC universe, and I wanted to catch up on the DC Gunn sphere of the previous DC extended universe, because I didn't watch most of the movies in the DCEU, and I hadn't watched any of his stuff. So I was like, let me catch up on what he's doing so I can get ready for Superman, which comes out this year in July and looks very good. So the James Gunn sphere of influence, he made The Suicide Squad, which is a sequel to the first Suicide Squad, which was ass. It's more of a reboot than a sequel. It's kind of like disconnected. And then Peacemaker, which is a TV show spin-off of the Suicide Squad based on a side character from the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker. And then Creature Commandos, which is still currently airing. It's not done yet. I haven't watched the episode that aired today because I was setting up the stream. And then there's going to be the finale next week. So it's not done yet, but I'm going to rank it anyway, and you'll see why. So I consumed this whole trilogy back to back to back over the course of like a couple weeks because I want to be caught up for where James Gunn is taking the DCU, because this sort of represents his direction, I think, right? Because he's in charge of the whole thing now. It's kind of like a Feige situation with Marvel, right? The Suicide Squad was good. I'm not gonna put it in A. It's top of B. It was a good movie. I had some problems with it. I think Polka Dot Man was a bad part of the movie. Like, I think it would have been better off without him. I didn't like all the cutaway jokes with him. He was like a Family Guy character. I was not a fan of that. And I think that there were aspects of the like power scaling. I hate talking about power scaling because it sounds so cringe, but like there were aspects of the power scaling here that I thought were poorly explained. Like, they set up the villain as being more powerful than I think he ended up being, and I didn't like that because it felt like the stakes ended up being lower than they actually explained at first. You know what I mean? So I didn't like those aspects of it, but aspects I did like about it, opening 10 minutes, fantastic. The opening 10 minutes, that is the way to do a standalone sequel, because this is a standalone sequel to Suicide Squad, which was a horrible movie. That is the way to do a standalone sequel. They nailed it. It was so good. Even if you have no interest in this movie, I think you should just watch the first 10 minutes and then turn it off. Like, it was peak. Like, that would be a great short on its own, right? But then it led into an entire movie. So that was fantastic. I think the way that they introduced the new characters was really good. I think other than Polka Dot Man, I think every single new character introduced in this was introduced very well. They all had complete character arcs. Every single one of them had like good reason to behave the way they behaved. They had good motivation, you know, like not like morally good. It's the Suicide Squad, but like good motivation. I think they were all explored very well, the way they worked with each other. He's good at making these sort of ensemble films, and I think he handled it as well as he always does. I think the way they took Harley Quinn was really good, because she was a sex object in the first Suicide Squad, and it was really cringy, and it's sad that DC keeps doing that with her because she's a genuinely very interesting character and they keep doing that with her. And then Birds of Prey came out, which kind of took her in a better direction, where she's like learning how to be more independent, and it's like the first step of that, but it doesn't really follow through on the character arc. And then this movie follows through on the character arc from Birds of Prey, and I think that it was handled very well. I think the scene with the dictator, you know the scene I'm talking about if you've seen the movie, that was a fantastic scene. I think the fight sequence that then follows that scene was maybe the best part of the movie. Other than the intro, it was the second best part of the movie. It was beautiful. It fits Harley Quinn so well. He understands the character. I think that's the thing that I'm getting at here. Because even Birds of Prey, like, it took her in a better direction than the first movie. I liked the direction, but it didn't really understand her as a character. It didn't really understand her motivations or who she is. This movie very much understood Harley Quinn and who she is. And that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, was how Harley was handled. They did it very well. And he has said that he's interested in bringing her back for the DCU, like Margot Robbie. And I think that'd be great because she plays a great Harley, and I'm really hoping that they do that. They set him up like they need the whole universe, and instead he could, yeah. Like, it, I also think this movie had like the perfect right amount of camp, right? Like, the whole like storyline around the javelin is so stupid, but in a good way. Like, it was funny stupid, and I think like this was a very campy movie, and I think that added a lot to it. That was the right decision for it, because Suicide Squad 1 was so serious for no reason. Like, I should say it tried to be serious. It was faux serious, right? Like, it had such serious like tone, and then they'd say like, so what is this, some kind of Suicide Squad? And it's just, there was a clash there. This embraces the camp, because Suicide Squad is just kind of an inherently campy concept, and this embraces that, and I think it did it really well. And yeah, it was a good movie with a lot of flaws, and it goes top of B. It belongs top of B. I would say watch it if you're interested in the new Superman movie. I would say like do the trilogy that I did, do the like the Suicide Squad into Peacemaker into Creature Commandos. I don't think you need to watch anything else. Technically, you don't need to watch anything to get into it because these are all like supplementary. You could just go watch Superman, I guess. But I would recommend watching all of these. I would say that Peacemaker, I'm gonna do it. It peaked for 5 hours and it lacked step. It fell off for me. I think like the first 4 episodes were so good. And then his sense of humor started wearing on me. And then the ending didn't really make sense. And then like, it was not a good ending for me. I was not like a fan of how it came through personally. I don't know. It was rough because I was really enjoying like for the first 4 episodes, it was better than Suicide Squad at the very like the Suicide Squad. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. It was better than that for like most of it. And I really liked like how subversive it was, how it kept you on your toes. I was like catching things before they said them, and that makes you feel good when it like gives you a little foreshadowing and you pick up on it. That's nice. It was good. I really liked it. And then they just didn't stick the landing for me. Like a lot of the characters kind of changed how they behaved in a way that it would better suit the ending that they were going for. You know what I mean? Like they had an ending in mind. What's going on? Oh, it's just really quiet. Play something louder. There you go. But like there was an ending that they had in mind. It's like it's the Venom problem, honestly. They had an ending that they had in mind and then they forced it in the last couple episodes. And I just don't think they earned their way there. You know what I mean? I don't think they got there in a way that seems coherent. And it's unfortunate because it started really good and it didn't get there for me. So yeah, that goes in lacks depth. This used to be slop and I softened it because not all of these are slop. These 3 are kind of slop. Like these 3 are kind of slop. These 2 are not slop, but they just didn't stick the landing for me. Creature Commandos. It's not done yet. Disclaimer, it could drop because like I said, Peacemaker did not stick the landing for me. This is written by the same guy that wrote Peacemaker. It is very possible that it does not stick the landing for me. However, I am ranking episodes 1 through 5 of it because that's all I watched in 2024. However, I think it's the best show that I watched, like new show that I watched in 2024. I think it's the best new show of 2024. There's a huge chance that the episode is rushed if it's not double length. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, the first 5 episodes of Creature Commandos, I think is the best show that I watched in 2024 that like is new. Because obviously Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, exceptions. But do I? Okay. I said it confidently and now I'm thinking about it. This could be recency bias. Yeah. Penguin was beautiful. Penguin was a work of art. It's so good though. It's so good though. Like I went into it expecting another like Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy type situation where it's just like ensemble cast does wacky things. I thought it was going to be another one of those. It is not. It is not one of those at all. It's insane how beautiful this show is. Like not just visually, because it is beautiful visually. The animation style is fantastic. It is like genuinely beautiful storytelling. It is like such a deep analysis of like what it means to be human and what love is to different people. And it's so good. It's so good. The first episode, I will say, if you're hearing me say all this and then you go watch it and you watch the first episode and you're like, what the hell was he talking about? The first episode is exposition. Give it 2 or 3. Give it 2 or 3. Because on the first one, I was on the fence. Because I was like, this isn't really going anywhere. On the second one, I was like, okay, this is good. And then on the 3rd episode, I was already in love with it, right? So I would say give it 3. Because they're 20-minute episodes, right? This is a very short show. Like by the end of it, it's going to be 2.5 hours for the whole show, right? It could have been a movie, essentially. And so give it an hour. Give it an hour. That's all I say. Give it an hour. Watch the first 3 episodes. If I'm wrong, tell me I was wrong. But I wasn't. Because it's so good. It's so good. I don't know how they did it, man. Because like these are such nothing characters. No one's ever heard of any of these, right? Have you ever heard of, like, I guess you have technically heard of The Bride because like she's Frankenstein's bride. They took that from Frankenstein, like Bride of Frankenstein. But everyone else, like who's heard of Dr. Phosphorus? Who has heard of G.I. Robot? These are not like big A-list DC heroes. But it's such a beautifully told story, and I highly recommend it, and I'm glad that this was how I ended my year. I was a little worried about ending my year with this because like the Suicide Squad was good, Peacemaker kind of fell off for me, and I was like, damn, is this trilogy just not going to be that good? But I'm very happy that I ended my year with this trilogy because it paid off, because Creature Commandos is fantastic. It's so good. Highest profile character is Rick Flag, yeah. Which means there's no high profile characters. Like he's medium profile. But yeah, that's my list. It was a lot of peak. I did a really good job of selecting stuff. I'm gonna run through it real quick from bottom to top, and I'm gonna see if I wanna make any changes. Vultures was the worst part of my year. Deal or No Deal Island was comparable. The presidential debate was hard to watch. Megalopolis was also hard to watch. Taylor was really disappointing. Invincible was disappointing. I really wanted Tim Walz to do well, and he kind of flopped. Crazy was disappointing. Was it the best of the four? Yeah. Venom was a sleeper. The Harris debate was a sleeper. Peak for 5 hours lacks depth. Peacemaker being the best of them. Rivals is better. And then Peacemaker, and then Duck Life, and then Power World, and then Deadlock. Okay. Horrendous until it clicks. That's very much a tier of its own. I think it's worse than all of these though. I'm gonna reorder these. Like it belongs in its own tier, but I think the tier should be lower. Yeah. Okay. B. Suicide Squad is better than Bando Stone, which is better than the Game Awards, which is better than Joker 2. That's accurate. Contestant belongs there. Yeah, Contestant belongs there. A tier, Hunger Games, and then War of the Planet of the Apes, or War 4 of the Planet of the Apes. They're such bad titles. And then Marvel Rivals, and then Fallout. I'll move Fallout up. Little Kitty Big City, Sabrina Carpenter, King of the Mischievous South, Incredible Crisis. Yes, that's accurate. Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I'm gonna do it. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was the best movie I watched this year. I'm sorry. I like Everything Everywhere All at Once was so good. I'm not saying it was bad. It's still in the peak. It's like the number 2 movie still. I still really liked it. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is a work of art, and everyone should watch it. Then The Penguin, then Creature Commandos, then Shogun, then Gen V. I'm gonna move Gen V up. I'll leave it. It's borderline. I'll leave it. That's fine. Dune belongs there. Yeah. GNX, Kingdom. I'll move Kingdom down. Oppenheimer, Kingdom, Survivor, Monkey Man, Voyage. Yep, that's my list. That is my list. I'm locking it in. That's my list. What the fuck? Okay, there we go. That's my final list right there. That's everything. And yeah, I'm gonna send it in the server. Bing bong. Do I want to merge any tiers? I don't know. No, I don't. I think the Contestant deserves to be in a tier of its own, and I think Slim Shady deserves to be in a tier of its own. I think those are both very like earned solo spots. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's my list. I'm done. Okay. What time is it? I still have like an hour and a half. I'm gonna play some Marvel Rivals. I am going to be right back, get like a water, and then we'll run Marvel Rivals. That was yeah, I had a very like all over the place year. I think that's good. I think the fact that I consumed a bunch of different stuff is a good thing. But I think I consumed like 20 total things for the first time last year. I really need to make a bigger effort this year. Yeah, I think like part of it for me is like I had nothing to do in the summer. Cause like, let me break this down. I watched one thing in January. I watched 2 things in February. I should say consumed, because not all of these are watched. It was 2 in March. It was then 4 in April, so it was starting to ramp up. It was then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things in May. So this is where it's really starting to ramp up. It's 4 in June. It's 4 in July. It was just 1 in August. We're starting to fall off again because I'm back in school. It was 4 things in September. It was 5 things in October. Maybe it didn't fall off. That's interesting. It was 4 in November, and then it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in December. So it was May and December were very loaded with things. And it was because I was doing marathon runs in both of those cases. In May, I watched all of the Planet of the Apes movies back to back. So that counted as separate properties. And then in December, I did the James Gunn trilogy. So that was all back to back, right? And so I think part of this is kind of bloated by the fact that I did marathon runs like that, where I would watch like a series back to back to back for the first time, right? If you don't count those, because how many things is this? I forgot. I want to say it was like 50 almost. So that's 16, 17, 18, 19. 5, 36, 37. Yeah, it's 45 things. So if you remove if you lump together the like group runs, then it's only 40. Yeah, it's only 40 in that case, which is still kind of a lot, but I'm just saying it's kind of bloated up by the fact that I would do back-to-back-to-back runs of things this year, right? But yeah, I consumed a lot of things. It was all over the place. It was very different stuff. And yeah, what a year.